brought to you by Sandhills Broadcasting and Brick Capital Video. We're here in the WFJA studio. I'm Linda Smith and your host for today's Lee County Commissioners candidate interviews. I remind our listeners that today through Thursday, each afternoon, these interviews will air live on WFJA and WWGP, as well as stream on the WFJA website. Videos of the candidate interviews will post on the WFJA website. So we begin our final interview in this segment with District 4 Commissioner candidate Taylor Vorbeck. Taylor, welcome to WFJA and our candidate interviews.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting.
Okay, yeah, it's very exciting. First of all, Taylor, please tell those that have tuned in today about yourself, your background, and why you're seeking real election to the Lee County Board of Commissioners.
Well, my name is Taylor Vorbeck, and I am a mom of four, a small business owner here in Lee County, and a wife to a wonderful, God-fearing, hardworking man who owns a small restaurant in downtown Raleigh. A little bit of background about myself is born and raised in Florida. Moved up to North Carolina, and my husband and I have searched for, I would say, what we could call home, and what we could, the place that we could raise our kids in. We felt comfortable that modeled values and core beliefs that we felt very strong for ourselves and our kids. Was when our oldest was about to start kindergarten. We really started thinking, okay, we have to really think about what school system and where we're going to be with them, and not just the years 1 or 2, but where do we look for them to call home and grow roots. And we were in Wake County at the time, and God put it on my heart that Lee County was where we needed to go, and we packed up everything, kind of came out here. We've been here for 4 years. We absolutely love it. It is a mix of the two hometowns that we grew up in Florida with, that our kids are excelling in the local schools here, starting a small business here. I'm invested in making Lee County as great and as welcoming as it was to us when we first got here.
All right.
And as far as the commissioner side, I feel this is a good conduit for me to be able to give back and be a voice for District 4 where I live, and allow others to see the opportunities that I saw when I first came here, expand upon them, and continue to make Lee County great.
Okay. So what do you see as the most important issues coming up next term for Lee County Commissioners?
Honestly, I think that could be an ever-evolving door to anything that could come up within, especially how the last 2 years have gone with COVID, and how things, I think, have just continued to change. Businesses have learned to adapt. Schools have had to learn to adapt. Everyone's kind of had to learn to adapt. So regardless of the issues that are coming up in the next term, I think ultimately my goal is to be the good. I want to continue putting God first in the decisions I'm making for Lee County. Do I feel like it is rooted in biblical foundations on the decisions that I'm making? I want to oppose anything that isn't financially sound, doesn't help Lee County continue growing in their goals and their values that they want to maintain economic growth. I want to, as a mom, I have definitely learned how to say yes and no. No, maybe a little more times as yes. But I've learned that saying no isn't always the wrong thing. It's when it's the right decision to be able to say no. And just as I parent my kids and want the best for them, I will do that for them. Do that for the citizens of Lee County. I want to be open and transparent. regardless of any issues that are coming up, not only on the Board of Commissioners, but I want to open it up to Board of Education. I want us to have an open communication as well. We've got tons of families that are moving here. The school systems are gonna, I'm sure, already feel it, and I feel it would be best served that we have a two-way communication street. And ultimately, depending on any of the issues that come up, I am determined and committed to be the best steward for Lee County, and providing them with the voice that they need to make sure that we have the right people in place. We're making the best decisions possible. I want to be just overall want to make sure that our economic growth and our goals that we have don't make us lose what makes Lee County unique. There's a reason we called it home. There's a reason tons of people are calling it home, and I want to make decisions and important decisions that don't make people call someplace else their home.
Okay. All right, local leaders have recently approved incentive packages to bring new industry and business to the local area.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is your opinion on using tax dollars for incentive packages offered from our local government to bring industry and/or development to our area?
I probably have an interesting take on this. Not necessarily incentives as far as packages to bring the new businesses in it. And I would love to. The city started last year a spec building program where they're building a couple spec buildings in the area and having businesses bid on them. It took me about a year to find my spot here for my business in Sanford. I toured a bunch of buildings in Sanford, and there is a lot already built that just needs a little TLC, get them up to code, but something that is very hard for small businesses to have or even medium-sized businesses to have the capital to get a building up to code to be able to then put money towards it to become an actual business. I would like to see a kind of a twist on the current spec program and possibly getting the buildings that we currently already have that are sitting vacant up to code and allow the small businesses and medium-sized businesses, because currently the way it's set up is we're just asking for the larger industries or the larger corporate chains to come in because they're the ones with the capital to be able to get it to where it is.
Mm-hmm. So I think you're headed to the next part of this question, and what other strategies can our county use to lure industry to Lee County?
Yes, I think going off kind of what I was saying with we've got a great use of space here. We've got structures that are built for some really different types of businesses to come in. I think the strategies I'd come up with is mainly just trying to figure out what ultimately we need here. Do we need another mattress store? Do we need, do we need something more for our kids? Do we need family-friendly entertainment ideas? Like, some more family-friendly restaurants? Restaurants to get up and started right now. Speaking from a little bit of a personal experience, it takes a lot of upfront capital, especially with the building cost right now. So we've got a few sitting vacant right now that if we could just put a little bit of effort into them and maybe have them, and pay off that over time back to the taxpayers or, back to whatever money we've been able to allocate over to it. I think that could be a win-win for both situations.
With all local elections now being partisan elections, there have been comments recently about whether local elected officials should vote in line with political party principles or on their own. Do you feel elected officials should vote along party lines?
I think ultimately the country is currently run on a two-party system, and each party is very open about their values and their beliefs and what they want best coming from within their parties. And ultimately, regardless if there's an RD next to a person's name, they internally have their own goals, beliefs, values that they want. And I think we're all ultimately pulled to one line or another. As a Republican, I did feel that the Republican Party better aligns with my family values, my biblical principles, being a conservative Christian. Um, I I felt like that was best for me. But regardless of the R next to my name, I am here to be ultimately the best voice for District 4, and regardless if they've got an R&D next to their name, my goal is to make the best decision for them ultimately. What would better our district on a whole.
Okay, thank you. A bond referendum passed in the previous election for a sports complex in Lee County. So, what do you see as the role of commissioners in seeing this project through?
Um, so, as a role as commissioners, the commissioners currently elected, when this bond came up, they put it out to vote to get the taxpayers, citizens, the people of Lee County, to give them a voice. It won by an over large amount of yes. So I think ultimately the people spoke, and it was something they wanted to see. And I think for now, as our role as commissioners, it's making sure that we're allocating the funds that were passed correctly. That we are, and my role would be making sure that I'm the voice for helping allocate the funds for the hardworking taxpayers' dollars, making sure it's going to be the best benefit for the community and how it goes. As a mom and a coach, I'm excited for it. I know some of the things that got passed as of recently, making sure that we definitely still have some facilities that will make it more family friendly, and when people are coming in to the area, just making sure that they feel our presence of Lee County in there. And then as a coach, I think it's going to provide a lot of opportunities for the kids. I think we're going to see our middle school and high school sports probably grow, and I don't know if you know, but middle school and high schoolers need a lot of stuff to do. They've got a lot of energy. So I think this is going to provide them a good outlet to not only continue their growth here in Lee County, but the opportunities that it could provide with college scouts. And I'm slightly excited about sports.
All right. So, what do you see as the most important issues coming up next term for Lee County Commissioners?
As far as the issues coming up, I would. That one's kind of just whatever's coming up is going to be.
It will be on your plate.
It'll be on my plate. Yeah.
Okay, so as a Lee County Commissioner, you're involved with the budget and requests for our Lee County schools.
Mm-hmm.
First, what do you see as the role of commissioners in relations to the Lee County Board of Education?
Mm-hmm.
And second, what areas do you see as areas where the relation with the Lee County Board of Education can improve?
Okay. For the first one, as far as our roles with the relation to the LCBOE, currently we approve their budget, and then we're kind of hands off as far as that goes. That's part of my Be the Good, is just opening those lines of communication, which will kind of bleed into your second question on there. But opening the lines of communication between the commissioners and the Board of Educators. I truly believe these two entities should be working as a team and not as a parent overseeing how a child spends their money, but as a collaborative team. With two kids currently being in Lee County schools and a third coming as a rising kindergartner, I ultimately want what's best for our teachers, our students, and I think opening those lines and it being more of a hey, have you ever thought about this idea, or have you thought about this idea, or this is kind of the reason why we've got this on the budget, I think would help improve our school systems and allow for growth and just idea exchange sometimes, especially with these last 2 years and our kids and our COVID. I mean, I've seen a change in my own kids as well, and I'm home with them. So some of the other parents have not been as fortunate to be able to be home during COVID with their kids and help them maintain the growth that they needed to. And it can't rely all on the educators as well. I mean, they have done an excellent job in keeping kids and maintaining and still growing where they're at. And I would like to see that the commissioners will be able to be a voice into that, and not just here's your budget.
Yeah. Well, what you've said will just flow right into the next question.
Oh, perfect.
Keeping teachers in Lee County and not leaving for higher paying jobs in surrounding counties has always been a challenge.
Mhm.
So, how can you, as a commissioner, work to keep Lee County competitive with other counties?
Um, I do believe opening that line of communication, I think, is really just, I mean, some of the worst fights probably that you and I have ever gone into is probably based on communication. Probably has nothing to do with anything else. Communication is key. It helps foster creativity. It helps make people feel like they're working towards a common goal. And money ultimately, I know, is always at a forefront on everyone's brain, but as we know, money doesn't always buy happiness. It does help, but I think helping out the school systems and the teachers and listening to the principals and going in and visiting the schools possibly and listening to what they need, and trying to help maybe be their voice as well, and not in a overstepping of the Board of Education, but in a way that we can kind of bring back ideas, and help support them. I think ultimately, if you don't feel supported and you don't feel like your voice is being heard, it's hard to see the good in anything you're doing. So,
Okay. So, what specifically will you do to represent the voters in your district and make sure that their voices are heard?
I will be visiting people in the District 4 and listening, and being out in the area, and following suit as far as making sure that what their needs are, and trying to figure out how that fits into the overall plan. And I believe that listening is a really big goal of mine for them, and then just making sure that it aligns with everything that we've got going on.
I'm going to ask you this one as really your last question. I'm going
Okay.
because you've talked a lot about your goals and everything, and so I think this will just flow into the last question here. Many live in Lee and in Sanford and Lee County because of a safer
Mm-hmm.
type community than some larger cities around us. So, how much should the commissioners be involved to make sure our policing is always respected and well trained in this community?
Um, as far as the commissioner role goes, I mean, we're currently, we approved the sheriff's budget, and I believe that Sheriff Estes has the best intentions for Lee County. I believe in his budgetary decisions and how he leads his deputies. Um, I think it's not just policing. I think it's my goal to help Lee County feel like they have a voice in what makes this what makes the county safe and what makes it wholesome. I don't believe it's just on necessarily the police to do it all. As a community, we should be looking out for one another. I think we've lost that over the last couple of years. I think, with social distancing and all the precautions and losing people's faces, I think we've lost what it's like to be walking into where everybody knows your name, and I think we should not be afraid to get back to that to a degree. I think we should look out for our fellow man, I mean, our neighborhood we're in, absolutely love it. We've got wonderful neighbors that are next door, and she'll call and say, "Hey, you got an Amazon package," before even Amazon tells me I've got a package. So, I think just helping the citizens of Lee County and District 4 understand that I'm here for them. I want to be the best candidate for them. I want to be the best voice for them. I believe in what Lee County is, and I believe that we can continue the track that it's on, and not losing sight of what makes Lee County great and what keeps it well centered. And yeah, I'm excited.
Okay. All right. Well, Taylor, we thank you for your time with today's interview. And so, on behalf of the station, we wish you the best in the upcoming election for District 4.
Thank you so much.
And so, do you have a final comment that you would like to?
I just want everyone to know that I want to be the good, and I want to put God first. I want to oppose things that don't make financial and fiscal sense, that keep us from our goals. I want to be open and transparent with you all, and I'm definitely a dedicated and committed steward for Lee County.
All right. Thank you so
Thank
very
you.
much. I joined Sand Hills Broadcasting and Brick Capital Video in thanking Taylor Vorbeck for talking with us today. And this completes the interviews for the Lee County Commissioner candidates. We would like to thank all of the Commissioner candidates that joined us for today's interviews here in the WFJA studio. And our interviews will now move to session 2 and the City of Sanford Mayor's race. I'll step out and Kelly Lodati will step in and be your host for the next segment with mayoral candidates Rebecca Wahoff Salmon and Sam Gaskins. So stay with us.